And welcome into a Believe in Panthers extra edition here on the Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks at FanDuel. Tobacco Road Sports Radio's Desmond Johnson in the house. My man Jonathan Stewart is on leave. We'll catch up to him in a couple of weeks, but I had to go pull in some heavy hitters. The champs are here. Usually during this time of the year, I try to bring in Panther content creators to shine a little light on what they're doing. There's a lot of great Panther content out there besides Believe in Panthers. And one of the first calls I made was to my guy, Wassup Doug, over watching OTAs and everything else going on right now. What's up, Doug? What's going on, man?
Chilling, man. Appreciate the invite. I joke when people bring me up, you got me out of hibernation real quick. Man, life is life, man. Great. I said, I have been doing content, but definitely been keeping up with the pressers, reaching out to my sources and supporting the other content creators. Like you said, I really feel like the Carolina Panthers have great content creators. Even though different people have different views and bring different ways of content, I feel like we have one of the best non-media content, on YouTube. So with the brand that we have and everything, I love it, man.
It's crazy too. Once I kind of got into this world, I realized a year or two ago, I'll leave names out of it, but I'd started pulling some content creators over to Tobacco Road for the Keep Pounding podcast network when we started building that. And I realized that there's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of infighting amongst the Panther content creators. Like, we're very passionate about the Panthers, but don't let an outsider come at one of us, because we all form like Voltron and go after whoever it is. So it's a crazy dynamic, and I'm glad to be a part of it. The Panthers finished the second part of OTAs on Thursday of this week. Mandatory mini-camp begins on June the 9th through the 11th in Charlotte. Three big questions with What's Up Doug here on Believe in Panthers, brought to you by FanDuel. We'll give you some odds here in just a bit on the Panthers that you can go over to sportsbook.fanduel.com. You can actually make some bets here in the offseason, and who knows, maybe it'll pay off. There's a guy out there right now probably waiting on the Hurricanes to win the Stanley Cup, because he probably put it in way earlier on FanDuel, so we'll get with that. But I was asked by WWL in New Orleans to do a hit last night, talking about the Panthers, and some of the stuff they asked me, I was like, this is stuff that I would probably ask the content creators too. Just coming out of OTAs, these are really it's four big questions for Doug. Which vet on the roster has the most to prove in your mind coming into this preseason?
And then I appreciate Des. Like I said before we start, I'd say, hey, I'm gonna take notes. If you don't check a show out of What's Up, Doug, we're very analytical. We have slides. We go over and beyond. We try to entertain, but we definitely try to bring facts. So the person for me is Bobby Brown III. I call him B3. Just some of his stats from last year in the limited role was 31 total tackles, a half a sack. He was a big influence for the reason why we let go A'Shawn Robinson, who had 65 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and one fumble recovery. If you ask different fans, some fans were not pleased with A'Shawn sometimes. But whenever he needed to show up, I know one thing for sure, he was a very vocal leader on that team. And him going to Tampa, a lot of people said we will see, letting A'Shawn go, even though he was a cap cut, that we will see a hold there. But then also I was thinking with Turk Wharton going down with the neck injury, a lot of pressure on Bobby Brown as well. But then you flip the script and you have some young dogs coming up, Cam Jackson going into his second year, and then you insert a drafted D tackle and Lee Hunter, and then you bring in with one question further down the line, I think a D tackle that's going to really make some noise and turn some heads is Aaron Hall out of Duke. So I really feel like he has a lot of pressure. Not saying that one of these young dogs would take his spot, but just with the production, what A'Shawn was able to do right beside Derrick Brown. And if you look at shout out to the Panthers with the blueprint, you see where it happened when we drafted Lee Hunter. You see it before whenever they talked about in the blueprint whenever they were interviewing him. Even whenever he talked about whenever he got drafted, being right aside DB, we're trying to get a tag team partner beside DB that can be a tandem for certain D tackles that we've had in the previous year. So I think Bobby Brown, or B3, like I call him, has a lot of pressure on him going into the 2026 season.
I'm glad you mentioned Panthers Blueprint, because I did watch it. I was actually on vacation in Gatlinburg the earlier part of this week, and I was sitting in front of a fire pit on our deck, and I saw it popped up on my YouTube. I was like, oh, I didn't even know they were putting an episode out. And I sat there and watched it, and it was great. And to your point, the way the Panthers make those episodes, you really get to see what is going on real time when they're doing these draft picks. And shout out to Dan Morgan, because you mentioned Lee Hunter, the second round pick, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M. And I feel like Bobby Brown, Texas Tech, excuse me, I'm sorry. And I feel like Bobby Brown III needs to look over his shoulder at him, because Dan Morgan's track record of finding starters in the first and second round is pretty damn good. And, you know, he mentioned in that episode that they felt like that Hunter could be a starter. And that would be Bobby Brown's spot. So, you know, that's one of the things where, you know, I think they're always tending to go younger and get the guys that they drafted on their own in position, as opposed to guys they brought in. Not that they're separating them out because they were free agents or whatnot, but they would rather, you know, a guy that they brought in from the jump and just get going. And to have somebody decide DB, that's pretty good, you know. And now you got Phillips on the edge, so like they're really did a lot of good stuff in free agency. What's up, Doug? Joining me here on a Believe in Panthers Extra Edition. You can follow him on X at Wassup Doug 336. Let's shift to the rookies out of the rookie class, and this was something else I was mentioning on WWL last night. I feel like Dan Morgan, he's kind of got a formula. I don't know if he'll ever admit it, and we're hoping to get Dan Morgan on Believe in Panthers sometime in August. But it feels like, looking at his last two off seasons, this off season and last off season, he has a recipe. He's going to try to find at least two guys in the draft that can be immediate starters day one. He's going to sign 2 free agents that are going to be starters day one, and he's going to find one undrafted free agent that's going to make an impact on the team. And he's done that over the past couple of years since he took over as GM. Even as assistant GM, I kind of give him the credit for Jaylen Coker because he's still here, and it feels like he was more of a Dan Morgan kind of pick to bring in and to mold or whatnot. Now he's literally the de facto number 2 wide receiver on the whole team as an unrestricted undrafted free agent. Let's look at the rookies. What drafted rookie this year has a chance to start day one, and why?
So I didn't want to give the logical because everybody's going to say Freeland.
I think you would go.
You know, I really looked at competition. I looked at production for vets, regardless if you're a 2-year vet, 5-year vet on this team. And when I say this again, if you know the history behind Dougie, you'd be like, I kind of figured I'm gonna go with Will Lee out of Texas A&M cornerback. Stats for him: 40 tackles, 8 PBUs, 1 sack. Has intangible to play both boundary and nickel corner. His wingspan is phenomenal. I think that's what really jumped out to a lot of scouts. 42 inch vertical. For the lack of speed, he uses his length. And I think the camp battle, I'm gonna put it out there, I think a camp battle a lot of people should pay attention to is Chai Smith-Wade versus Will Lee for the nickel corner. And then it even goes to show just this past week during OTAs, I know they're not able to film it, but they said they moved J.C. Horn into nickel so Will Lee can play boundary corner opposite side of Mike Jack.
That was very interesting,
very interesting. So for me, I think Will Lee brings the prototype of corner that we want. And shout out to Will Lee. He even said it whenever he got drafted. He tries to model his game behind J.C. Horn. And I know that's a tall task to ask and do. But to be in the same wheelhouse and have some of the same tangibles that JC has, I'm really looking forward to that battle for him to possibly be the nickel. And also, no slight to Chai Smith-Wade. Chai Smith-Wade is very undersized. He was a boundary corner at Washington State, and they tried him out at nickel during the Senior Bowl. Yes, you know, it's hit or miss, but when you have 6'1" corner, again, like I said, 42-inch vertical and still able to play boundary and nickel, one thing I think Evero loves to do with defense and his pieces is being very versatile, and Will Lee brings that.
Yeah, you're right. It seems like he likes guys that can play multiple positions. He can, you know, have them doing different things, not have to swap out so much substitution-wise, which helps the defense and kind of keeps the offense on their heels a little bit. Real quick, before we get over into undrafted free agents, I did need to mention to everybody, the odds are out right now on FanDuel, sportsbook.fanduel.com in terms of what the Panthers may do this season. Right now, if you went in and placed the bet right now on the Panthers, the odds to win the NFC South are at plus 310, and the odds to actually win the Super Bowl are at plus 7,000. So basically, if you go in and bet $100 on the Panthers to win the Super Bowl, you would win $70,000. Did I get that right?
So something around there.
Yeah. So you want to shoot your shot, go ahead and do it. sportsbook.fanduel.com. Go in and get that underway and get your money if you're a Panther fan. One of the I was just mentioning before with Dan Morgan and what he's been doing in these off seasons, and the Morgan formula is what I'm going to call it. And I just went back to go look. So like last year was the first true full off season of Dan Morgan in control as general manager. He was assistant general manager before under Scott Fitter before that. But again, my formula, he finds 2 starters in free agency. He finds 2 starters in the draft, and he'll bring in 1 undrafted free agent that'll make an impact somewhere on this team. In 2025, the 2 starters he brought in free agency were Trevon Moehrig from the Raiders, day 1 starter at safety, and Mike Jackson, cornerback from Denver, that we got on a very team-friendly deal. People didn't know a whole lot about him coming in, and he emerged as maybe one of the most crucial pieces of the defensive secondary, not named J.C. Horn, by the end of the season. I almost had him right there with J.C. Horn in terms of level of importance back there. He really had that Rams regular season game where he had was it 3 interceptions? I think in that game?
It was the pick 6 he had.
Yeah,
I think it was 2, but I don't think he got 3. I think we had 3 as a team. We had 3
Yeah.
as a team. But yeah, he had that pick 6. He set the tone for defense.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about the secondary there. Now in 2026 in free agency, Dan goes out and lands what many consider the best free agent in free agency in linebacker Jaylen Phillips and Devin Lloyd. Both of them are going to be starters going into this season. So you kind of see the pattern there. In terms of undrafted free agents, last year the guy that kind of emerged was Corey Thornton. Just a diamond in the rough, cornerback, 6'1" out of Louisville. Had some meaningful plays during the season. Got banged up a little bit, but he's looking to make an impact this year. And I saw that he was actually getting some first string run a little bit during OTAs as well. 2024, I count it because Dan was an assistant GM, and since he's still on the team and has developed, I feel like this was a Dan Morgan pick. It's got it written all over it. Jaylen Coker was 2024 and is still with the team. Now has a little contract going on, and it's pretty much a de facto number 2 wide receiver of this offense. And I ain't mad at it. Like he's really grown into his own. Who is the undrafted free agent of 2026 that you have your eye on that can make an impact? They don't necessarily have to be a starter, but they're going to make some sort of significant impact on the roster based on the Morgan formula.
Well, I hate saying it because, again, shout out to them Tar Heels, and it's a difference. And like I said, I already said his name, but Aaron Hall out of Duke. Been hearing a lot. You even hear from coaches, you hear from players that's been getting interviewed. Shout out to our pressers, to our media that asked the questions, like what rookie has stood out to you, and Aaron Hall's name has definitely rung a bell. I know one thing they love is his twitchiness. With Turk being down, I think that opens up the door for another tackle for right now. I do think Turk will be on the pup. So again, when that comes close to the pup, do you cut from that room or whatever? But I think that does open up an avenue for Aaron Hall to definitely make the roster. And from what I'm hearing and seeing, I think he's definitely impressing with his size and the way he's able to move in small spaces.
For the undrafted free agents, for me, the one that intrigues me the most is Haynes King, the quarterback from Georgia Tech. Player of the year, offensive player of the year in the ACC. People forget Georgia Tech was like 9-0. They were undefeated, like for most of the end of the season. Like, everyone's completely forgotten it. And then they hit a little skip at the end of the thing, but they were undefeated. They were ranked in the top 15, and they were like that one team nobody really watched. And Haynes King, they run that kind of. It's not an RPO. It's just like almost like a wishbone type. It's a wishbone. You can say RPO wishbone type offense. So he kind of has a little bit of both. He reminds me of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm looking at it like, okay, what's the reason why they would have him here? And I'm like, he would be Taysom Hill, basically. He would be he's 25 years old. You use him in the Taysom Hill role. Whenever they're in like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, Dave Canales loves going for it on 4th and short situations. We've seen it happen. But a lot of times they're trying to run it. They won't leave Bryce Young in the game. They'll take him out and they bring in Andy Dalton to run like a quarterback sneak, which basically just announces to the defense, this is what we're going to do. You think he might throw it. We just brought him in because we don't want our 5'10" quarterback shoving his head into humanity or whatnot. With Haynes King, you can build a whole little 10-play package for him, and it can be 3rd and 5, and you bring in Haynes King and you run whatever with him. Thoughts on him before I let you go? Because I'm sitting there thinking, if they can figure out a way to put a little package in for him where it's not threatening to Bryce, but it's a part of the offense the way Taysom Hill is, can that work with what they have on offense in Carolina?
I mean, you're a genius because that question was asked. You actually know they asked Haynes King, how did he feel of that type of role? He said anything to help a team win. And I think that is the right answer.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have to see it. It's not even on Dave Canales anymore. It's on Brad Isaac. I mean, we know they're supposed to be the same mindset, same philosophy, but it was very telling against the Houston Texans during that preseason game. I know it's preseason, but even the national media is really talking about how this playbook, how this offense is going to look underneath a first full-time offensive coordinator in Brad Isaac. So what is Brad's mindset for Haynes King? Not Dave Canales, because again, even Dave said he has to understand he's not just an offensive coordinator. He can jump around to different position groups. So for me, I feel Haynes King answered the question correctly, but rather than asking the question for Haynes King, question needs to go to Brad Isaac. What exactly do you see Haynes King being in your offense? What exactly do you see him? Is he that quarterback sneak? Is he that Taysom Hill type? I'll throw another quarterback out there. I know they're two different, but a lot of people forget what Tim Tebow did at Denver.
Ooh, yeah.
So again, like I said, it's really depends on what exactly Brad Isaac's offense is going to look like. And I think with mini-camp being open to the public, I think a lot of people will definitely see what is there. But those joint practices going against two playoff contenders and coming off a playoff berth will really show us exactly how this offense looks.
Man, and so I assume it's going to be at the practice facility they built uptown Charlotte, right? That they're going to have it there because they're no longer at Wofford. So,
well, the crazy thing about that is there's still no more fans. If you catch the video clips, you see it being built. I will say I'm actually glad it's getting built and you actually see some movement, so that can definitely get us excited for the 2027. But it definitely, we're going to be relying on clips. We're going to be relying on those reporters. But I know 2027 is going to be a melee run into that training facility.
Yeah, man. And see, I'm kind of glad this year that they're not allowing public in because I tried to go, was it 2 years ago when it was still in Wofford? I think it was the last year it was in Wofford. I tried to go. So I went to Spartanburg alone. And no one told me that when you first come into Spartanburg from, what was it, 77? Or no, it might be A5. When you're coming in, when you're first coming in, I think
you're coming off of A5, then you go off that ramp.
Yeah, when you first come in, that's the side of Spartanburg you don't want to stay in. So I got a hotel over there and thought I was going to die. Like literally, there's like literally the parking lot, the the environment, everything around it just screamed, "What are you doing here?" So I'm sitting there alone in this hotel room, if you can call it that, waiting for the next morning. And this was the year that they were scrimmaging the Jets.
Yeah, I was actually there.
And it got canceled because of weather.
Because of the weather.
So the day I came down, there was like a tornado watch or something that whole morning. They canceled the practice. So I drove down there for nothing. And I ended up going to the sub shop in Spartanburg. It was super good. I can't even remember their name now. It was a couple years ago. One of the best subs I ever had in my life. So I basically drove all the way to Spartanburg for a sub. Came back up the highway. And that was the second year I tried to go because the year before that I tried to go and something else happened. So I was just like, you know what? Let me just not try to go anymore. And then they stopped letting the public in. So, so I don't even know what's going to happen once they get all this together. But maybe next year, if they open it up to the public once the facility's completely done, maybe I get down to Charlotte. Maybe. But I want to see guys in person like you and others that I deal with, throughout the season. I only see you on screen time, but great to actually link up with some of these content creators. But thank you for your time. I'm gonna get you out of here again. Follow Wassup Doug on X at Wassup Doug 336. Great content. His show, very analytical. They really get down to the nuts and bolts of everything and really give you a precise, clear-cut idea of what your Carolina Panthers are doing. Because I know sometimes we're like, what the hell are they doing? He can kind of give you the answers there. So thank you. Wassup Doug for coming through, man. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate it.
And that'll end it for a Believe in Panthers Extra edition here on the Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. We'll have some more next week as I do my annual summer tour of Panther content creators. We'll have a new one in here. And Stu will join me probably in July. We'll start previewing the NFC South, and we'll bring in Believe hosts from the Atlanta Falcons, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New Orleans Saints, I guess, if we must. We'll bring all of them in and discuss the rest of the NFC South and what they've been doing in the offseason before we start getting into August and preseason and everything starts rolling downhill again. So for What's Up, Doug, this is Des, and you've been watching and listening to the Believe in Panthers podcast here on Believe Podcast Networks. Keep pounding.